Hey guys, this is Vishal Dandote, and in this video, we will see what is the Angular directive and why those are important in Angular, and we will also see the practical example. So, before we start the practical example, let's see the definition and little bit more detail about the Angular directives. So for that, I have written my own blog on my pressurekatta.com website. So here you can go to pressurekatta.com, and in the Angular section you can find the directives in Angular chapter. So uh, for the theoretical part, I will start from here, and after that we will see the practical example. So what is the directive? So let's see the definition. Directives are nothing but the way to manipulate the DOM using the Angular. So whenever we need to manipulate the DOM element, or the whenever we need to work with the HTML document called as so in that case directives are important. So using the directives we can change the behavior of the element. So let's see the diagram, like how directives is working in the behind the scenes, and also what are the types of directive, and why those are important. So in the directive, as you can see in the diagram, so there are three types of directive: structural directive, attribute directive, and component directive. So in the structural directive, whenever we need to add, remove, or update the content conditionally, or change the actual structure of the HTML page, in that case we can use the structural directive. But and its syntax, so whenever any directive starting with the star symbol called as structural directive. Another one is attribute directive. So any directive which is same like as a HTML attribute, and it is helpful to change our behavior of that particular element, means change the styling, or change the background color, or uh, change the font size. In that case we can use the attribute directive. And component directive means we are creating the component, and adding some content or do some functionality with the DOM, that is called component directive. So as you can see here, all three directives are important to work with the DOM manipulation part. So DOM manipulation means whenever we need to add, remove, update, or delete any content from the HTML document or document object model. So that's why directives are important. And let's see the definition for structural directive. So as we have three types of directive, we will check those step by step. So structural directives. So these directives start with the star syntax, and we can use it for manipulate the structure of DOM. It can be add, remove, update the element conditionally. So it means any directive which is starting with the star syntax, and it is useful for add, remove, and update the HTML element conditionally. So uh, we will see the practical example in some time. So after that, for example, we have star ng for, star ng if, and star ng switch. So there are two types of directives, which is predefined directives, means any directive which is provided by Angular called as predefined directive. And whenever developer or us create any new directive called as custom directive or user defined directive. So this predefined directive, another one type called as attribute directive. So this directive, like any directive which is useful to get the reference of the element and apply the styling on it, like as a ng style, ng class. So whenever we need to add any style or get the reference for that particular element and do something with that, so in that case attribute directive is important. So attribute directives are nothing but same like as a HTML element attribute. So component directive are the same as a class which we are using for creating the component. So basically it will tell Angular how component should be create and view with the UI. So basically it means whenever we are creating the component, Angular will tell, or we are adding the logic in the component. So basically Angular will this component will tell Angular how my component look likes in the UI, and also what the functionality should component um, add in the application. So in this case, component directive are important. So component directives are predefined. So like whenever we are creating the component, so that is the custom component directive. Like any component which we have created in the Angular application, that is called component directive. So let's see the practical example now. So I have created my code sandbox here, and I have created my um, Angular application. So it don't have any code. I mean, I don't added I don't have added any code in this application. So just it is the um, Angular application with the default code which is generated by Angular CLI. And here now we are going to create our first directive. So whenever we need to create the directive, so first let's create one file called, let's say for now, let's see the attribute directive. And for the attribute directive, we are going to change our background color for this heading tag. So as we discuss, directives are important whenever we need to work with the DOM manipulation part. So here, as you can see, we are going to change the color of this element. Means we need to work with the HTML document or HTML page. And whenever we need to work with the HTML page and we need to dynamically add the color, we should work with the attribute, or we should create the attribute. So let's create the file first. So here I am going to create background color, or simply say background color dot directive dot ps. And in this file we can simply say class, sorry, whenever we need to use the class in another file, uh, so in that case we need to first export the class, export class and background color. So you can see background color. So I have written the class directly because um, here most important point we need to discuss, that is whenever we are simply creating the class in the Angular application or in the TypeScript file, that means we just have the TypeScript class, it don't have any meaning. So it's just core TypeScript class. But whenever we are creating the class, or whenever we need to create the particular functionality in the Angular application, for example we need to create the service, we need to create the um, uh, directive component. So in that case, we need to pass the metadata to the TypeScript class for the Angular understanding purpose. So whenever Angular see that metadata, so it will create that particular thing. Means Angular will understand this is not the simple TypeScript class. This has metadata. It means we need to create that specific um, a related class, or that specific type of class. It means, let's say in this case we need to create the directive. So for that let's import the Angular core. Here we can import the directives. Directive, sorry. So directive is nothing but the class or the predefined class which will help us to send the metadata to a TypeScript class. And whenever we will send the metadata with the directive class, so Angular automatically understand that this is not the simple class. I need to create directive. So whenever we need to pass the metadata, so some people also calling it as um, um, decorators. So anything which is declared using the at the rate symbol, start with the at the rate symbol, that is called decorator in Angular application. So here I can simply say component, sorry, directive, and this directive will take one object, and into that we need to, that object has one key called selector. So as we discussed in the last video about the in the component um, lecture, so selector are nothing but how we should use this class in the HTML file, that is called selector. So in this case, we need to create the selector. So I'm going to change my background color. So I would simply say background color. So in this way you can write the syntax. So you need to, in the string you need to create the opening and closing curly sorry, square bracket, and into that you can simply add any name. So here I have written my background color name. So whenever we have added this background color name, we need to use that in HTML file. So how can we use that? So we can use that using like this as a HTML attribute. So we can simply paste it here like as HTML attributes. Whenever Angular will see this, so Angular Angular will identify it is not a simple attribute. It is the Angular directive, and I need to go to the directive file and do the functionality which we have added into this file. So like the logic or whatever we have done here. So as we you can see, we have add that directive here, and after that, whenever we are adding the directive or whenever we are creating the directive, we need to make sure that we have import that directive or declare that directive, or also another word we can say register that directive into the app.module.ts file. So as we discussed in the last video, whenever we need to bootstrap, or module is the way, or root module is the way to bootstrap our application with the browser. So whenever we need to run the application on the browser, in that case we need to register all the things which we are using in the Angular application into the app.module.ts file. So Angular will get to know that I need to bootstrap, or that will be help to Angular to bootstrap whole the Angular application. So you can simply import that directive in the app.module.ts. So how can we do that? So we can do that simply import, and from @angular, and here sorry, this is the custom directive. So simply we can say slash, and I need to get this name, so I can simply copy that name, copy, and I can paste it over here. So simply say background color dot directive, and we need to get the class name. So as we declare their background color, so I can simply get that class name and register whenever like anything which is like we are, let's say, component directives pipe which we are using in the Angular application, we need to add those in declaration array. So here we need to register our uh, directive. So I have added my background color directive in, into the declaration array. So in this way, uh, uh, we are ready to use our directive. And as we have already used it here, but we don't have, or we don't we didn't add any functionality to it or any logic to it. So whenever we need to add the logic, so we need to get the reference of that element. So whenever we need to get the reference, we need to import the sorry, element reference from the Angular core. So we can simply say element ref, and we need to create the instance for that. So for that, we can simply create the constructor function, and here we can simply say private, and we can say element ref, and I can simply say element ref. So it will create the instance of that element reference, and here we can simply say this dot element reference dot native element. So native element means HTML elements. So here we are getting the reference of that particular element where we need to apply our style or we need to manipulate the DOM. So like in the JavaScript, we are getting the ID reference or the class reference, or we are selecting the element in this in that way we are selecting the element here or getting the reference here. So basically we are getting the reference this dot element dot native element, and here we can simply say style and background color equal to here any color whatever we need to apply for, let's say green, we simply say. So as you can see here, as we have already used our directive for the h1, and here we have changed the style, and you can see the output here. We have successfully created our directive. So when we should create the directive, so like whenever we need to manipulate or whenever we need to um, do some changes in the DOM or in the HTML structure, like as applying the style or adding the background color, or we need to change the styling based on the event click. In that case we should use directives. And like how directives are reusable, so it means, let's say now we have used the background color for h1, and I need to use that for p element as well. So here I can simply say here is my directive reuse anything, just it is the just here is my directive, it is just html, or it is just um, content for p tag. So that is not important, and whenever we need to use this directive again and again, we can simply use the selector as we discuss. Yeah, so here you can see we have successfully applied background color for background paragraph element as well. So we can use the one directive n number of times, there is no limitation. So for the reusability purpose, we are creating the directives. Keep in mind, whenever we need to manipulate the DOM, we should use the um, directive. So in this case, we have created our custom attribute directive, and we have learned how to create the directive in Angular and what are the directives. In the next lecture, we will see how we can create the structural directive and what are the structural directive. So let see you in the next video. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.